Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Small Business Success Summit, the only summit that we have ever seen that is pulling in experts from a variety of different skill sets, strengths, and trainings, where we're not just focusing on Facebook training or Twitter training or video training or all the things that we've already seen on the web, but we're pulling in experts to talk about organization. We're pulling in experts to talk about financial barriers and how to create budgets. And yes, online marketing, how to do SEO, how to do Facebook, how to do content, and all those different things. So we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you've decided to join us for these 15 speaker sessions, and I think we even have a couple bonus speaker sessions as well. So there's really just a ton of information, and I want to welcome you back. A couple things. Notice the page that you're on right now. Well, notice my voice is a little hoarse. I've been doing interviews for 2 weeks now. I've still got one more week of interviews to go. Super excited about it. But a lot of you guys know I just had my fourth little girl. Well, no, my fourth baby, my first girl out of my 3 boys. So and she was a miracle baby. For those of you guys following me, you know that my wife and I had things done to make sure that we wouldn't have any more kids. We thought that we were done, but the good Lord saw fit to challenge and push through all that. So we had another baby. She got sick at the hospital. I got sick, and so now I'm dealing with this horse. So that's my long, drawn-out story on why I sound like Phyllis Diller. So that being said, very excited to introduce my guest. He's a member of the NSA. He's got a master's in social work with a strong emphasis in working with other people and helping them to kind of recognize weaknesses, strengths, and building upon that. I met this gentleman in a Facebook group where we share some common friends. Just really ignited a lot of passion in me when we met, because I was looking for somebody that does exactly what he does. So he's the president and CEO of SteadyTide.com, which is a customer relationship manager software, and also he's got another company that he runs with his wife called the Love Entrepreneurs. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about that. But today we're going to be talking about how to stay organized in your business and how to use a CRM. Generally speaking, right? This is not an infomercial for SteadyTide, but what it is we're going to talk about how to use these tools to run a more systematic business and to have a more systematic approach to your business. So without any further ado, I want to introduce to you Brett Judd, who is my guest today. Brett, are you with us?
Absolutely, here and ready to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. You look fantastic.
Gee, thanks.
So tell our audience who may not be familiar with your work, tell us a little bit more about what you do and where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm a licensed social worker. I'm a master's of social work. 20 years in the field of social work has taught me a lot about human behavior, about interactional relationships, and I've seen a lot of incredible things with people, the troubles and the trials that they go through, as well as some incredible overcoming obstacle events, and have watched people just change and transform their life. That really led me to the transition that happened for me in just the last little while, last couple of years, moving out of maybe the direct human services relationship work I've been doing in mental health and just helping people through therapy. In 2013, I went to the GKIC Info Summit, but Super Conference, and so I was talking to somebody who said, "Oh, you're a business therapist." I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely right," because one of the things that I have learned and watched in my own self, entrepreneurs that I'm good friends with, as well as those that I get to work with now, is that the same chaos, the same mental craziness that I've been working with in the mental health world is alive and well in the entrepreneurial world. And so there's really this immediate crossover. We all have the same barriers. We all run into stress, depression, anxiety, the things that keep us up at night. And
More so.
I think more so. You know, I cannot tell you the number of times running my own business I've laid there staring at the ceiling, or as my wife is sleeping, I'm sitting on the side of the bed staring at the floor, just going, please tell me something. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, no,
And a
I can
lot of
totally
that,
relate to that.
you know, I've yet to meet an entrepreneur who doesn't understand that well and hasn't walked through it. And really, that's one of the things that led us 2 years ago to the creation of SteadyTide.com, and ultimately led us to create the Love Entrepreneurs. You know, it was November. I guess it was only a year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago now. November. I was sitting on the couch with my wife. I had note sheets next to me, my laptop with Excel spreadsheets going on. I was desperately trying to figure out, how do I integrate my email? How do I get my Excel spreadsheets of all of my contacts, my leads, everything else? I was doing seminars. I was out teaching other social workers and counselors, and I did not have an organized system to manage all of that, and I was losing opportunities. I was losing leads. I wasn't able to convert people to me because I didn't have a systematic process. And that's when I went on a hunt. I learned what a CRM is. I learned how to use these things, and ultimately ended up having the opportunity to create Steady Tide. And now we can take those tools into small businesses, micro businesses really, because that tends to be who I look at. Your mom and pa, 10 people and under businesses who need all of the tools. One, they don't know what the tools are, where to get them, how to use them, or they can't afford the inordinate prices that so many of these, you know, places are wanting. And that's my passion and my mission, is to get it out there to Main Street and to get it so they're not sitting on the side of their bed at night. And so that's led me to my coaching program and the work that I'm doing directly with small business owners and helping them absolutely transform all of their work into worth.
You know,
So
that's really exciting. A couple of things that really stood out to me on that is that mom and pops kind of get forgotten, you know, and I get that. I mean, even myself, I'm more focused on a business that's doing between 5 and 10 million a year, which is probably not the mom and pop, which is, you know, breaking 6 figures, maybe at $1 million, something like that and below. Yet what's stopping these guys, who are a lot of my friends, from getting to that next level, is knowing how to use the tools, right? Because we're inundated every day with like HubSpot's new CRM and Zoho CRM and Nimble CRM. But then once you get a CRM, it's like, how the heck do I even use this thing?
Yes, yes. You know, and one of the things that I've found, and one of my reasons that I'm passionate about this Main Street kind of group, is they're the bread and butter of our entire economy.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are the folks, they're slugging out on existence. They've got kids in the high schools. They've got their own life that they're trying to lead. They really are the backbone to the American way of life and what we're all about. They're desperately trying to do it. And it was one of the frustrations that I had, because nobody was really talking to me and my wife, a 2-person practice, doing therapy, marriage work, you know, private counseling. Nobody was talking to us. They were all talking to these huge major organizations. And I'm like, what about us? We're the ones slinging it out every day trying to make it work. That's where my passion came in, and when this whole thing really got going. And I love working with, you know, folks that are like that. They're doing the absolute best they can every day, who can actually do better when they learn what the tools are. And that's what really gets it going.
So what are some of the barriers that you know, not knowing what the tools are? What are some of the barriers that the small and micro businesses need to overcome, and maybe even some of the middle side? Because I've seen plenty of $7 million companies struggling with CRMs. They might even have Salesforce or Demandforce and don't know how to use it. They use it only for the email marketing portion or whatever. This costs.
They're using just a tiny slice of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about that.
You bet. You know, so when I walk in, and I did this a couple of weeks ago, and some people I'm going to go talk to again this afternoon are a really great example of this. They run a local dress shop, amazing beautiful dresses, excellent, niche, because there's always some kind of event that's going to need that. And when I started talking to them about, what do you have for your website? What do you have for your online presence? What about your Google Plus account? Have you done these things? Their eyes just kind of got huge, glazed over, and it's like I whacked them with a 2x4. So and as we got talking, I noticed the very first thing in these three fears and barriers that are three barriers that I've got looking at. The number one is fear. They became afraid. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're talking about. And this fear started to permeate into our conversation. And I've noticed that there seems to be a very consistent trend within that. Small business owners are afraid, on my experience, on these four different levels. One is change. These folks were still running out of a Yellow Pages book, and that was one of the biggest concerns that they had, was the expense that they were putting out for their actual Yellow Pages listing, and that it was taking away what they would love to have put together into a CRM to have done what it was I was telling them about. And so that's just an incredible example of how many of these small business people, and even up to the size you're talking about, fear of change. Technology is changing, attitudes are changing, the customer clientele is changing, the way that we have to interact with those clients is changing, and they tend to become so focused and maybe a little bit myopic. This is how I've done it. I don't know if I can change it. What do I change? I'm afraid that it limits their ability, and they end up halting themselves.
Yeah.
On occasion, I'm able to get in with a business owner, a small business owner, who sees, they realize change is coming, and want to come in and say, look, here's how we can do it, let me help you. They're like, this is incredible. More often than not, they're afraid of the change.
That's I'm more that second type, but that I want to see, I see a trend and I want to like attack it first and make all the mistakes first.
Right.
And I think part of that is because where we are in our business, we're still in our scaling process, so we can afford to kind of make those changes without breaking the bank. But that most of my clients are kind of in that same position where they're like a kid that I want to swim but I can't let go at the side of the pool.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to let go and actually learn what I know to be true. That fear is a big one, and it's just a fear of, like you said, letting go of the old way of doing things and embracing the future. Right. Technology, Facebook ads, online marketing, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. There's a very stifling safety that happens for each and every one of us in routine and staying in what we know. And it's great if that's all you ever want. But if you want anything more, you have to be able to change and expand. And one of the areas that you have to be able to do that in, and is really an area that I see a lot of fear with many of the people I come in contact with, is the area of technology. We are in an age, and it's strange that we're still having this fear. In the last 20-some years, everything is driven by technology. If you're not on board, you're really archaic. But many times these business owners are not embracing everything that's out there within the technology world. And that's part of that change process that has to happen. Now I want to hit really quick on these other two, and they're kind of the two ends of the same teeter-totter, or ends of the same teeter-totter here. One of the things that I find often is that small business owners, entrepreneurs in general, are afraid of failure. They hold themselves back. They're afraid to leap off the edge of the pool and, like you say, let go of the handrail on the side for fear that they may sink. And they hold themselves back, and that's where I was for a long, long time. I was so afraid that if I cut loose from the support and everything of my state jobs — I was a professor in the university, I worked for another state agency for a long, long time — as long as I kept just a little bit of a toehold, I was never able to stretch and excel where I needed to go. And many times I've seen fear of failure hold entrepreneurs back. But on the flip to that, and I've seen this so many times, and it's still a conundrum to me, fear of success. I talked to an entrepreneur a year or so ago who has been in real estate for almost 30 years now, does a decent job, when we talked about ways to expand it, how we could actually put some pieces in place that would make it so that they didn't have to work as much, but it would start bringing in more money, all of a sudden it was, oh, I can't make more money because then I'm going to have to do this, and then it's going to require that. And if I become successful, then I'm not going to be able to do this. They have figured out a place, a balance where they were able to work just enough to where they didn't have enough money to excel, but they didn't have to work as much as they thought they were going to. They were afraid of success and what success was going to do to them, to their life, their lifestyle, and ultimately how it was going to change them. The reality is, if they had adopted and done the changes that I wanted to do, we could have automated so many of their systems that were taking a lot of their time that they could have worked less, continued at the pace of income that they had now, probably increased it without any additional work on their part, and probably less work. But they were so afraid of what success was going to mean and how it was going to impact them that they couldn't even take that step. That I have seen numerous times with entrepreneurs. What is success going to do to me, and how will my friends see me? How's it going to change my relationships? What is it going to do to my life? And they can't see the fact that all your friends are still going to come with you if you want them to, and it's going to expand you even more. That's probably one of the biggest fears that I run into all the time.
Man, not me, man. I would ditch all my friends and family in a heartbeat to make $1 million a month. Like, sorry guys. You know what I mean? I'm just
join me or leave me.
Yeah, you know, and of course I'm, you know, we're kidding around. We're kidding around.
Right.
You know, I'm more of that. I'm motivated by that sense of, you know, like yesterday I posted on my Facebook page, find an excuse to win. And I heard that, and that's been my MO for like the last month. Instead of looking at all the reasons why, oh, if I do this, everything could break. If I do that, everything could break. It's like, you know, we just got to make it work. It's a life hack, you know. It's a success hack.
Yeah. Yeah, and once they start to get over it, I find that people will embrace that. But there are so many people, and I don't know if it's one of the things that I've heard many times from people is, oh, my family doesn't do that, or that's not like me. I'm like, well, why not?
Right.
Change it.
Right.
You know, you can be better. You can be different. You can expand. What do you want? And so it's not an insurmountable, but I've just been, when I start looking at fears that I run into when I'm coaching people, this fear of success just comes all the time. And I think for many times because they don't know what's on the other side. I don't know what's on the other side of that door. Do I dare go into it? I know what mediocrity looks like. I've been living that my entire life. I don't know that other side.
Right.
And they hold it back.
So how do we get from this place where, like you said in the beginning, you've got all these notes on Excel files, you have all these lead forms, and you know, if you're like me, you're using Evernote and you're using Google Drive and all this other kind of stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of this? What are some steps we can take to start getting more organized and create you know, systems?
And that's the word right there on it. Systems. You've got to systematize. And I don't care if it is a small, tiny, one-man, two-man operation business, or if we're talking, you know, 100 people in your business. The faster you systematize, the better off and the more successful you're going to be. I was talking with somebody a couple of weeks ago on Facebook. They were just starting and they had invited me to like their new page for their event planner business. Yeah, well, I extended out a micro an offer for her to join SteadyTide.com at one of the micro levels. It was like $35 a month. Would have got her the scheduler, the event planner system, and the list builder. Well, that was too much money for her. We're just now starting out, and I wanted to throw my computer up and jump and, you know, scream and yell, because I'm like, $35 a month to get your systems in place is too much. And I hope you're going to do well. I wish you well, and I fear for you. Yeah. And I don't mean to say that so snarky, but one of the things that small businesses have to do is start to systematize. Get your lists in an organized place where you're able to subdivide them, tag them, you know, get them categorized so that you can now email market to a specific targeted group. and you're not shifting through pages and pages of notes or trying to find the right Excel spreadsheet page. You've got to get it into a concise, organized place. The other thing that you've got to do is get integration. Does your email marketing system talk to your website, talk to your CRM, so that you know who's looking at your emails, who's looking at your web pages, who's interacting with your message? That was taking me forever because I was having to look at the analytics everywhere, trying desperately to get this system to continue to talk to this system, and it was wasting my time. And so that's one of the things when they realize what a good CRM system does. Small businesses now have the absolute holy grail of tool that they need to launch from the beginning, not when you start making some money. Do it in the beginning, and it's got to be one of those foundational pieces.
And it's more affordable now too than it's ever been. And a question that I get a lot is, well, what CRM should I use and what email marketing system should I use? And it's kind of like those questions go hand in hand. It's like, well, which email marketing systems work with what CRMs?
Yeah. Well, and I would take it another step further, because like mine and others like it, if it doesn't already unify every one of your systems, does it build your web pages for you? Does it have an embedded email marketing system? Are your web stores already integrated? Can you run surveys and do that? I'd keep looking. You need to have a tool that's going to do the work for you. It's like the ultimate employee. And you don't hire the first thing that comes along, you find the right one. And it has to fit your business. And if you land on one and you like it and it's there, great. Keep it and go with it.
Yeah, you know what, I think you said something really killer there too. It has to work for your business. So whether it's having an all-in-one system or if it's having a free system, like if your business, if you're this micro business and I can't handle one more monthly payment, then okay, then you need a free system. So now you're going to go to Google and say free CRMs. And tell us what a CRM is. So, we talked about being afraid of tech and new terms.
Sure.
Let's talk about what a CRM actually does.
And that's a question that I had to actually ask myself, because I kept seeing that coming around. I'm like, what the heck is this thing? All it refers to is a client relationship management system or software. It is a platform of tools that makes it so that you can manage and organize the list of leads, customers, and prospects all in one place, so that you're not jumping all over. And really good ones are going to give you lead scoring so that you know who's a hot prospect, who's not. Most of the time, you're going to be able to run a marketing system through it, but the core to it is gathering your herd, your tribe, there's so many ways you can say it, your clientele, into one spot where you're able to interact with them in a systematic, organized way that saves you an amazing amount of time and headache. That's really the core to what a CRM is.
And then we've got like this process now where you've got step one is, take notes on your yellow notepads or whatever you do. Because I find that as tech savvy as I am, I have, I'm taking notes right now on just computer paper. But what I'm going to do, what I do during the week is when I meet somebody on a sticky note or whatever, I have one place that I put all of those notes at the end of the day.
Exactly right. Last night I did that. I went to the NSA, National Speakers Association meeting in Salt Lake last week, came home with some new contacts, business cards. Last night I put those cards into my CRM record. I'd made a new group that was just NASW, or not NASW, NSA friends. And I put these folks in that group. And then I was able to make a note. So when I entered in a card, I put into the notes, what did we talk about? What are their interests? What's their business? That makes it so that now whenever I need to reach out or I want to reach out, I go to that list and I have that information instantly at my hand.
Right. And, you have this you can come back to it now. Because you know what I do, this thing is like, oh, I'll remember.
Yeah, no, you don't remember. You don't remember at all.
No, you're like, what the heck did this guy want? You know, and then when you ask him, hey Bill, just wanted to reach out. Did you want, the blue car or the red car? And it's like,
right.
Who are you? You don't even remember. I guess you're too busy to work with me.
Yeah, and that's really where this process comes in. In fact, it's funny that you talked about the car. I wrote a blog piece about a year or so ago. It says I didn't buy the car, and there was a little car here in town that I liked. I drove it. It was fantastic. I gave the person my business card. They were going to look into some repairs that this little car needed. I said, you can call me, you can email me. I went back in a week later. My card was still in the same spot. I hadn't heard from the person. 2-3 months later, I still hadn't heard from the person. The car was still sitting there for sale. And about 7 months after I drove that car, I went, I'm only about 3 hours from Salt Lake City. I saw the same make of vehicle, a different car obviously, for sale, great price in Salt Lake. I got my son out of high school. I said, you and I are going for a drive. We drove down to Salt Lake. I made a private purchase sale. I would have bought the car 6 months earlier if he would have at least followed up with me.
Yes.
And he didn't even do that.
And your CRM makes that possible because you can put in alerts, you can put in reminders, and when you have a system that says step 1, put all my notes here. And then step 2, at the end of the day, right, because I'll bring all my stuff home with me. Right. And I wrestle around with the kids. And then right around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., we flip on a show, they're eating dinner, and I'm entering all this stuff in, whether it's on my mobile device or my tablet or whatever. And that's your step 2. And that's when you set up your alerts. And then step 3 is just listen to your alerts and follow up with people. I was being prospected by this CEO group, and I ended up joining another group. And she said, why didn't you join? I said, let me tell you why. I was like, you guys never followed up with me. You never put me on an autoresponder list. I don't know anything about your company. So you call me once a quarter and you ask me to join. And I told them, please send, I said, put me on your list. I gave them permission to market to me. And they didn't do it. Yeah, and $500 a month. I mean, they lost my business over it. It's like, I hope, I know if it was me, I know I'm not the only one. Now, what about the whole mindset? Do you ever run into this of well, my customers aren't that way, or my customers won't do that, or my customers don't do this. My business is so different, Owen. Do you ever run into that stuff, Brett?
All the time. And because of my affinity with some of my colleagues within the social work profession, they have a tendency to see very, very narrow about how they can market to their clientele, how their people will be able to interact. But I see it even beyond that. And I was talking with a hairdresser going into the salon, talking to him about ways that I could help her expand her business. And I talked about, what about an email drip system? How about we put together a follow-up email system inside? And she was already a user of SteadyTide, and that was the thing that was driving me crazy. And I said, let's build inside here the email marketing drip system. Somebody comes in and they get a hair color. What if you were to send them a follow-up email 2 days later? Here's what you need to be doing to take care of your new color. A week later, what are you noticing? Have you tried this product? 3 weeks later, when the roots are starting to show, automatically send a follow-up email telling them it's probably time to get set up for your next appointment. And I was floored when I had this reply. So, oh, my clients don't use email. And I was like, what? 80-year-old grandmas are using email. Who do you serve that they don't use email? Yeah. And I was just floored. And that's, one of the things that I wrote down in my notes for this as we were talking about this question was projection. Now, projection is a big social work, mental health word. Projection is we take our barriers, our fears, everything inside of us, and I project it on somebody else. Oh, they would never. What we're saying is, I don't use email. And this person in particular will text, they will cruise around on Facebook, they don't email. They don't even
Right.
have an email address that I'm aware of.
Right.
And so immediately they had assumed their clients wouldn't email. And they were absolutely wrong, dead wrong with that. And I guarantee you, because they're not putting together those systems, because they have put some of their bias and their mindset, they're losing money.
I see that. I see that all the time. My clients wouldn't fill out a pop-up, right? My clients or my clients won't join an email marketing list. My clients this and my clients that. And I'm glad you said the word projection, because being in as a media major, psychology is a big part of that. So I'm very familiar with the term. I'm going to start using that term, because that's what you're projecting, your own habits onto your marketplace. And my question is always this: do you have any data to?
You still there? Did I lose you? Hang on. You still there? Okay, all of a sudden I lost all the audio, I lost everything. I can't hear you at all. I don't know what's going on. I've got nothing. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, now you're back. Say
Can you
that
hear me
again.
now?
Say something.
Can you hear me
No.
now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. All
That's
right. So
weird.
let's
All of a
back up
sudden
a
it just
moment.
went. What's
Yeah, I
that?
trimmed that in the YouTube editor. I don't know what happened, but my mic light was blinking, and I've never seen that before. So I don't know
Okay.
what that was.
Yeah, I heard you say, do you have any stats? And that's when it all went totally dead.
Okay. Well, I'm using a different mic. I'm using the native mic now. So let's jump in with let me have you jump in with something like checking data is very important, and then I'll chop it together where I say, do you have any stats? And then we go right to you. So give me 3 seconds, and then actually I'll count over here, and then you jump in with data is so important, and then take it wherever you want to go.
Okay. You know, data and understanding your information, your data is so absolutely important. And you know, like we were talking about with this projection idea, so many times I have found this, my customers don't, my clients won't. That would never work. And probably one of the biggest barriers that I see people run their head into over and over and over, and it halts them. Oh, those folks would never be interested in what I'm doing. Well, how do you know? Have you
Right.
gone out and asked them? Have you done an assessment? Have you run a survey? Is this in your CRM that you can show me that that's exactly how they do or don't work? And
Can you talk about a survey? Like, I believe in surveys. I do surveys all the time. Every client that finishes an account gets a survey.
yes.
When should you do a survey, and what types of questions should you ask?
That's a great question. And I think that one of the places that many times businesses do it wrong, I've done it wrong in this in my own self, and I'm making some unilateral changes across a lot of my opt-ins. When somebody opts in for information about me, from the very interaction, I ought to be giving them a survey, if you will, but maybe it's just a 1 or 2 questionnaire, which is still a survey. What is your biggest barrier? What is your biggest need? How can I help you most? Sometimes can be incredibly enlightening and lets you go. I think from the very first interaction we have with a client, we need to be giving them the opportunity to feed us information. Engage with them so that they can get into that. I also think every time we get done with an interaction with a client, they need to have the opportunity to give us follow-through. There's a really interesting set of data on that coming out of the psychology and social work, the therapeutic world. that 80% higher success rate in the therapeutic process if the counselor would just simply ask, how was this for you today? What did we cover that was good? Where would you have liked to have gone, and where can we go next time? Very simple questions. But what the data came back in the research was that it made them feel like their therapist was truly engaged in who they were and what they needed. There's no reason we can't take that and run it across every business.
Yeah.
Anytime you have an interaction with a client, give them the opportunity to tell you how it was and to tell you how can you do it better.
Yeah.
And then you make the changes.
And you don't need, right? Would you agree that you don't need a long survey, a 15-question survey?
No, I think 2 or 3 questions oftentimes can be even more important.
Yeah.
You ask very pointed, how well did we serve you today? How can we do better the next time you come in? And, you know, Michael Gerber talks about this beautiful in the book E-Myth and the power of this. And
Yeah.
I think if a small business owner has not yet read that book, they're doing themselves a huge disservice. It is just loaded with information like this.
And it's not the E like internet E, right? It's like the entrepreneur.
No, it's the entrepreneurial myth. Yeah, right. E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth. That book was transformative for me in shifting how I saw my own self, and it opened up a lot of my personal fears and barriers that I'd locked onto.
So what are some of, and I know we're going a little off topic because we had kind of talked a little bit about, but I like the direction we're going. How do you create, for me, I just decided that I would write down my system. Like, okay, from now on, this is my prospecting. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then I ran that and honed it. Surveyed, improved. Sales. Okay, once I make a sale, I do this, this, and this, and this. What I noticed is that I had way too many steps in there. And so, you know, but it started with me because I was that guy, right? We were doing like $60,000 a year. And it's like, okay, so I've got a proof of concept. It's working, but what's, you know, how do we get, so I invented a sales system and a prospecting system, and then I've worked to hone it and refine it. I'm still honing it and refining it. What are your suggestions for creating a sales system? And, you know, and is there like a standardized process, or do you just have to make it up and hone it? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think that there are some standardized processes, and there's a lot of information out there. The E-Myth is one that I absolutely, you know, recommend to all of my clients because it is so, here's the stuff you have to do. And then my belief is we spend a whole lot of time wasting time reinventing the wheel. If you've ever had an incredible experience with a business and you're like, wow, they've really got it nailed down and it's a good, well-oiled machine, go back, process it, steal from them. You know, if you will, what process was it that felt good to me when I interacted with them? How can I put that into my practice? And then you tweak it and you play with it and you hone it and ask your customers, what could we do better for you to increase your customer satisfaction with us? What could we do to make it so that you'd be more willing to refer? Very simple survey that you could send out, which is immediately going to tell you how you can tweak and change your sales process to meet your clientele's needs and expand your clientele. But one of the things for me, go ahead.
Let's take a break there to ask our audience to engage. So those of you guys that are watching right now, whether you're watching it the week that we're live or you're watching a rebroadcast, because this is going to be up on the web for you know at least a year, but answer in the comments below, where are you struggling the most in your sales system? Which is the weakest part of your system? Is it prospecting, or is it fulfillment, right? Or is it maybe like internal marketing? I know that for me that's the worst. Whenever my bookkeeper calls me, I just like, I don't want to do that stuff. I want to be creative and explore my talents, you know. So answer in the questions below, and you can tag me and you can tag Brett, And I know that the week that this airs, we're going to be engaging for sure.
Absolutely.
If it's beyond that, it might take a day or two for us to get back to you. We'll do our best, but please comment, and maybe other people in the community can help you, answer that question where they've done really well. But I'd like to know where you guys are struggling, because that'll also help us prepare more trainings and more seminars and more workshops and things like this, to know where you guys are. So please take a moment out right now. Comment in the comment section below on which part of your system needs the most work according to you. Brett, what types of systems should we be creating?
I think as far as for good business success, you have to have a very solid, systematized way of getting leads into your hopper. If you don't have, and if you don't get Ryan Dice's emails, and if you're not out there seeing the stuff that Ryan is just giving away free, you're missing out on a huge, amazing amount of information. I mean, I'm repurposing a lot of what Ryan has said out to my Steady Tide subscribers, saying, look, guys, do this, because Ryan has nailed it. And so if you want to know how to build a system, follow him. He's going to tell you. He's going to show you, and he's amazing. But you've got to have a system to capture those people who are out there, on the fence, that are interested in you. Get them into you. You have to have a system that, and this is an area that I've found that small businesses have not made the change. The days of the one-off sale, buying the sell, are dead. And this is something that my personal coach had to drill into me. You're buying a customer for life. You're doing everything you can. When they walk in your door, when they make a transaction with you, they never want to go anywhere else because it's too expensive and there's too many other options. So one of the most important systems that I think has to be put into place is, how do I nurture that customer for life and make them beholden to me? Because I can't afford to go out every day and find a new customer and market and bring in new life over and over. I need them come back to me. I need them bringing a friend to me. And that's the way it is. That's the way sales happens now. And if you don't have a system to capture and nurture and retain that customer, you're going to be spending way too much time and energy to keep it alive.
It is so much easier to make out with a girl I already know.
That is so true. That's a great analogy.
You know what I mean? It's like, and when I was single, it was kind of like, I've always been an entrepreneur. So when I was single, it's like you work. It's like, oh my gosh, I need a date. I need to go out with somebody, Yeah. And so I wouldn't go. This is kind of funny transparency on me. I would go to my black book, if you will, my cell phone, right?
Absolutely.
Who do I already know that likes me, thinks I'm funny, that, I can say, hey, let's go get a drink tonight or whatever, But I also had a pretty solid system. I'm very systematic of going. I was a member of a bunch of different internet dating sites, and that was my new lead system. So I would spend, an hour on a Friday night, Saturday morning, just writing girls and saying, hello, 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 hello. And that created this inbound thing that would bring them into Facebook. But then Facebook was kind of where it was at. When I told my wife, because I met my wife online, and when I told her about those things, she was a little bit like, was I part of your system? And of course she was not. She was the one different.
No, not at all.
But
I think that's a great analogy, though, and I think that's really important. One of the things, and I just maybe hit this to kind of a tail end, one of the things that I have seen that kills small businesses, especially within the group that I'm working with, is the fact that they're not out in that dating scene.
Right.
They're not maintaining their interactions, and what I'm talking about here is they've built a job and not a business. They're so trapped now by doing the work, and when you open your doors now, you're not just the technician. And again, Gerber talks about this, but I'm the marketer, I'm the sales rep, I'm the accountant, I'm the janitor, and I'm the guy that's doing the thing I love to do. And they end up in a vacuum where they're not going to the networking groups, they're not mingling, they're not in masterminds, they aren't out, and you end up, I mean, if you imagine being in a vacuum, how quickly your oxygen would be depleted and you die.
Yeah.
That's what happens to small businesses, is they get in that vacuum, they get so tunneled in that they end up dying because they're not getting fresh infusion from other people around. Like being on the Small Business Success Summit, where they're hearing and getting this excitement and they get that blast of fresh oxygen. If you're not out there mingling on those dating sites for business, you're going to end up running out of oxygen. It's so absolutely important.
And you're saying that by creating these systems and processes allows them to kind of get out?
Yeah, the 2 hours that it would take me, 2 to 3 hours a week minimum, to take this legal pad over here from this event that I just did and figure out who they are and try and enter them into my Excel spreadsheet. I should have been out at a Chamber of Commerce meeting or out at a Rotary breakfast or mingling somewhere, calling somebody up for lunch and saying, let's go talk. But instead, I didn't have a system in place. I didn't have an active CRM that was doing that for me. And so now I'm strapped to the couch or the desk, crunching names, entering numbers, trying desperately to remember who was this, where is that, and by the time I went to bed, I'm exhausted. I haven't seen my wife, I haven't seen my kids, I haven't seen the outside in weeks, and I'm dying inside. You systematize that, you organize it into an automated process, you touch it very little, and then you go in and get the information you need and you move.
Low touch, very low touch. And you know, I think for a lot of you guys out there watching this where you don't have a CRM right now, you're gonna have to probably do that initial sit down and build your list out thing, right? Where you've got a filing cabinet or an Excel form, or if you're using Demandforce, I mean, you've already got it. You just have to learn it, and there's tons of videos on how to do that, because I know that we have a lot of like doctors and chiropractors and dentists that are listening. So you've probably already got that. You just have to learn how to use it. If you don't have it, if you're working off the Excel, version, or you're using Act, or you're using just file folders, right? Somebody comes in, you put their name down. What I did, and I did a training on this, it's on SoundCloud, is I gathered up all those papers over a weekend, put them into an Excel chart, and then it took all weekend. But it was one weekend, and then uploaded them up to my CRM. And now when I have new clients, new prospects, most of my prospects sign up automatically. They automatically add themselves to that list.
And that's what a CRM does for you, and that's why this is so important.
So you do it once. If you don't have it, you got to do it once, or you have to like say, well, screw all the people I've been marketing to. And you said it yourself, like if someone did business with you before, they want to do business with you again, but they need you to reach out to them and show
remind them.
Show them that you care.
Yeah, and that goes back to that idea of the car that I didn't buy.
Right.
I would have bought it. I had the money. It was a car that it's a little two-seater BMW Z. I had two-seaters when I was young. When we were first married, we had kids. Two-seaters don't go well with a car seat, Yeah. And so I've been waiting. I had been waiting for the day that I was no longer carpooling 2 and 3 kids.
Yeah.
So this was already in the plan that at one of these, sometime about now in my life, I was going to be getting back into that world. It wasn't a spur of the moment. It wasn't a knee-jerk purchase. It was something I was doing. He had the car I wanted, but because he didn't make me engage with him through a systematized process, he lost the $7,000-8,000 he could have had.
Right, because he said to himself, I guarantee you, and I don't know this for a fact, but I guarantee you, he said to himself, my customers don't use social media.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm sure he did.
My customers don't like video. And we built our business video spot on nurture, on get somebody to opt in and then just nurture them. Just say, hey, what's up? Hey, here's the new features or here's the standard features of a BMW. Which is most important to you? Tweet us this link or whatever. And just ask questions, get engagement going, and create a relationship. Because you know what happens after that too? Your friends start to ask you, where'd you get that car? Where'd you get that motorcycle? I walked into, I asked my buddy, because I'd like to get a little Honda or like a Yamaha bike. just like a road bike, just like for going back and forth and stuff. I asked them where you get your bike. I go down to the bike shop, and they just look at me like, you're not a biker, you know. You're not part of our culture, you know.
Right.
And it's like, no, man, that's why I'm here, man. Like, I'm here to engage with you, you know. But I walked right out, and you know, that was that. But we're running out of time, Brett.
Hey, can I jump on real quick with just one thought?
Please.
I want to put this, and I think it's something really important to wrap up on. You talked about how you know, doctors and these folks, anybody really, you yourself, took a weekend and took all of the list, everything that you'd gathered, and put it into the system. Here's the one thing that I would say, and it's something that I'm letting go of, and I think that more people need to let go of. How important is your time? How much value is your time? And could you have paid somebody $20-30 who would have willingly taken that $20-30, even $100, to have done that work for you, so that you could have engaged with your family? You could have gone out on that bike. You could have been outside for a while and engaged in the sun and everything that can give you. And how much is it worth to get out of, I got a job, and I'm self-employed? The terrible term. No, I am a business owner.
Right.
A business owner hires someone to do it for them so that they can think, create, and engage. And if they're not, they've just created another job for themselves. The $20-30 to hire a teenager who desperately wants the date money is going to serve you better than a weekend crunching those numbers into a system. I can't stress that enough.
I think that's a great point, and we're all guilty of it. Yes. We're all guilty of, only I can do it this way. Only I, or I don't want to sit down and like talk to somebody for 20 minutes and explain how I want it done. You know, I want it done this way, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to waste my weekend, which is exactly what I did, which is when I needed to do it again. I did exactly that. I went to my church. I posted on Facebook, but specifically in a church group, and I was like, hey, do any of you guys want to do I paid a girl $100 to organize maybe 500 contacts, you know, because I found a stack of business cards. And it's money. I want to give them a chance, and you know, actually, you know, one of my monthly billing clients came from that list. So it's worth it. Brett, we talked about a lot of great things today. We talked about why we don't get organized, the need to get organized. We talked about surveys and standardized processes. I think that you just brought a ton of value to the table today. How can our audience stay in touch with you and learn more from you and nurture them as you share with them your content? What's the best way?
Sure. So you can always go look at me at brettmjuddmsw.com. I blog there. And relationship books that people can just go and get and implement.
Let's start that again.
They can sign up and get involved with us there, where I teach these concepts. If you're not using SteadyTide, you're using another CRM, it doesn't matter to me.
I lost you there for like 2 minutes. Let's start again. From that question. So, Brett, how do we get a hold of you? What's the best way to stay in contact with you?
Yeah, you can get a hold of me and contact me even directly. I love email and contacting with people. brettmjuddmsw.com is my personal website, and lots of things on my blog there. And for this process, I'm going to be putting out a special page at steadytide.com/SBSS. And I've written a couple of business strategy ebooks that I'm going to put on there for free download for everybody who gets onto this to get a hold of, that are going to teach them how to systematize as well as build their relationships with people. And anybody who gets in here to this workshop, you're welcome to it, and you can get on there. You can engage in what we're doing at steadytide.com/SBSS.
And that's free?
You bet it's free.
Okay, very cool. And we'll post the link in the...
I'm a firm believer in sharing value.
Yeah, no, I definitely, and the thing is that I think you provided a ton of value there. So I just want to make sure our audience knew, because we're not selling
You
anything on
bet.
SBSS. It's all about just content, content, content. So Brett, I want to thank you for joining us, and for the audience out there, I really want to thank you, and I appreciate you guys logging in, taking time out of your day. I want to encourage you to tweet, memorable moments from the event using the hashtag SBSS, and of course, engage with us in the Google Plus group, where you can talk to other members, network with other members. It's not a spammy group, so we'll kick you out so fast for spamming. But if you just want to like talk and, hey, did you guys get this, or where was the link for that, and I'm struggling here, that's what that group is for. That's what it's for. So engage there. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you had a good time, and we will see you on the next installment of the Small Business Success Summit. Thanks for joining us.